Foundation videos.
Fishing 101, the basics and more with Special Agent Davin Heinbuck.
Getting started in fishing can be very easy. All you need is some really basic equipment and access to water. Fortunately, where we live in Southern Ontario, we have water all around us, with a variety of fish and fishing opportunities. This short video will look at the variety of different fishing lures, from the water surface right down to the bottom, how to use those lures, what species of fish you might use those lures for, and some of the techniques to make those lures work as well as they can to catch as many fish as you can. Finally, I will provide some tips and tricks on how to make your time on the water more successful. If you're looking to get your first rod and reel, I suggest starting with a spinning reel and a matching rod. You can vary the size. If you're fishing for small fish, get a smaller rod and reel, but if you're fishing for some larger fish like bass, walleye, or pike, you can go with a little larger reel and rod to begin with. Once you're comfortable using that, the next type of rod and reel you'd get into is maybe a bait caster. These reels are a little more difficult to use, but they handle bigger fish better. They handle heavier baits and heavier line. There are two basic kinds of fishing line to look at when getting started. One is the classic monofilament line that you may be used to seeing, and the other is a braid. These braided lines are stronger. Oftentimes you can get the same line in the diameter of the monofilament, but the strength of this line is up to 3 times stronger. In that case, it's much easier to pull out snags that can happen as your line drags across bottom, such as rocks and twigs, branches. There are several styles of knots to choose from, but in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to tie the improved clinch knot. Start by pulling one piece of line through an eyelet, and then wrapping that piece of line 5 or 6 times around the main line. Once you've done that, thread the tag end back through the loop that is adjacent to the eyelet. When you are through that, you're going to pull that tag end back through the loop that you had just made. Once that tag is through, grab the tag end and grab the line and pull the knot tight, and it should slide down to the eye. And it's always a good idea to put some kind of water or moisture onto the knot as you cinch it down. And there you go. Having an appropriate style and size of net is essential for landing fish quickly and safely. A rubber mesh style net like this one here is great because it avoids tangles, is safer for the fish, and is safer for the angler. Having the right tools available to you will ensure that the fish is handled quickly and released safely. These tools include jaw spreaders, bolt cutters, and long nose pliers. Altering your hooks can be very helpful to ensure a quick release of your fish. You can remove a full hook or just pinch the barbs as seen in this example. Both methods will get you back in the water quicker and safer. Panfish are small, plentiful, and fun. They require the use of small lures or live bait and are perfect for those just beginning to learn how to fish. There are many species of game fish in Ontario, and generally they require larger lures and more specific lures to the species that you are targeting. Some of the game fish species in Ontario include fish in the trout family, the bass family, the walleye and perch family, northern pike, and muskies. Coarse fish can be a lot of fun to catch. They can be caught quite simply by using corn, bread, or dew worms, and can grow to large sizes. The most widespread species in Ontario include the sucker family, the catfish family, and the common carp. When fishing the surface using topwater baits, there's really two styles. One is a prop style bait, where there's an actual prop on it that spins. It'll make a chugging noise on the surface. The other is a walk the dog, where you actually have to give the bait action with your arms to get the lure to walk back and forth like this. It's a variety of fishing lure styles that you can use, and each has its own purpose. We're going to walk through a number of different lure types and show some video footage of how they work in the water. I'm going to start with a spinner. They can have 1, 2, or even 3 blades sometimes. All sorts of sizes. I'm showing you a little bit larger one here just for visual. And this is great for working through the center part or top part of the water column. So it's just below the surface really. And they give off a lot of vibration, and the hair or flash, whatever might be on the back of them, gives them some extra action as well. A second lure style I don't have here, I'll show you in the video, is a glide bait or a jerk bait, where you can work that lure just a little bit under the surface. Using that same general action, get the lure to zigzag just under the surface. Very similar to the inline spinner that I just showed, this is a spinner bait, also known as a safety pin spinner. And it's got a blade on top and some sort of body or trailer on the bottom. These lures are usually weedless, so are very good when fishing for bass in and around a lot of cover. You can move them through the weeds and even up and down the water column around weeds. So very versatile bait. As we go just a little bit deeper, you have options like spoons. There's many styles of spoons. This one here works a little deeper, gives off a lot of vibration and a lot of flash as it moves through the water. Then you can look at crankbaits or minnow baits. Some call them twitch baits. And these baits are great as they can fish from the surface, almost on the top, right down to 15-20 feet, depending on which lure you have. But they mimic a fish as they move through the water. Lots of things you can do with these baits. You can reel them in steady, or you can reel them in, pause, let them float up to the surface, reel in again, or you can even pop them or twitch them and make them look like a dying or a fleeing bait fish. And when working the bottom of a lake or river, jigs are very effective. This here is a tube jig, and with a weighted head and a hook that points upwards, this allows the bait to bounce along the bottom and rocks without getting caught up. Very effective because it mimics crayfish. And excellent bait choice for smallmouth bass. And if you downsize this to a smaller bait, great for panfish, crappie, rock bass, sunfish, things like that. If you want to start with the basics and just fish with something like a dew worm, it can be very simple. All you need is a hook, split shot sinkers, and perhaps a float or a bobber. It's as easy as that. The single most important thing about becoming a successful angler is understanding the fish that you are trying to catch. It is important to know the habitat, their preferred forage, that is the food or food supply that they are most dependent on, time of spawn, where they spawn, and also the other seasonal movement patterns of the fish. To learn a little more about what species of fish can be found in the various water bodies across Ontario, check out Fish Online. Once you know the preferred food of the fish you are targeting, you want to match the hatch. By that I mean you want to replicate what that fish is feeding on in its natural environment. If it's crayfish, you will want to use a crayfish mimicking lure. In this example here, we have a yellow perch. If there's a lot of small yellow perch that fish are feeding on, you want your lure to look like a yellow perch. One suggestion I'll make here though is to make your perch stand out. And that can be the size of the lure compared to the average size forage, or even the speed or how that lure works in the water. You want that lure to get noticed. If you know there are fish there and you aren't getting any bites, you'll have to change things up a little bit. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can change the size of the lure, the style of the lure retrieve, or the retrieve speed. Sometimes the fish want the lures moving quickly, and sometimes they want them moving slowly or more erratically. Every day is different, and it's up to you to figure that out each time you're on the water. One thing to consider that is easily overlooked is choosing the right color of clothes to wear when fishing, especially in clear water. You want to have a shirt or hat that matches the background. And that could be blue sky, blue shirt, gray sky, that kind of idea, rather than having something bright or dark that really contrasts. What that does is it really highlights your movement and you become much more noticeable to the fish. Along these same lines, try not to make any quick movements or unnecessary noises. Both of these actions could alert a fish to your presence. And don't forget a good pair of polarized sunglasses. Polarized sunglasses will reduce surface glare on the water, allowing you to see in the water and sometimes even the fish that you're fishing for. It may also alert you to some hazards that are under the water that you would normally not see otherwise. And in general, With lures flying around, hooks flying around, it's just safe to have some sort of eye protection. Sunscreen and bug repellent are absolutely essential for being outdoors. However, their use could be resulting in you catching less fish. What I suggest is after applying sunscreen or bug spray, make sure that the palms of your hands are free from any scent that might deter a fish away from biting. Water clarity is a very important consideration as well. Visibility can vary from almost no visibility at the surface to being able to see down 15, 20, even 25 feet in really clear water. It's challenging for fish to find the bait sometimes in really dirty water, but also having too clean a water can make it a challenge to convince a fish to eat your lure. The other thing you want to consider with water clarity is how it affects your selection of lure types and lure colors. If I'm fishing in clear water with bright skies, I'm typically going to go with a lure that has some flash to it, or some brighter colors, or even some contrast. Conversely, if that's not working, I may go with something more natural. Now, if the sky conditions change in that clear water where it's a darker sky overcast, I'm gonna go with a darker bait, something that sticks out and creates a silhouette. Now, if I'm fishing dirty water, I also really wanna get that bait noticed. And I can do so by using a lure that makes a noise or has a rattle in it. Or I'll go with something with a very bright color, or even a black or a white lure that might create some silhouetting or contrast in that dirty water. Use the weather forecast to help predict when fishing will be the best. Generally, stable conditions are good, as are the conditions leading up to a major weather change. The old saying that winds from the east, fish bite the least, winds from the west, fish bite the best, is generally true. There are exceptions, and often it's the stable weather from any direction that will trigger a fish bite. During the daytime, weather changes such as changes in wind direction, wind speed, even going from cloudy overcast skies to sunshine are all positive factors in getting fish to move and bite. Secondary to weather, there's another forecast you can look at to predict good fishing times. And that is knowing when the sunrise occurs and when the sunset occurs each day, but also knowing when there's a moonrise and a moonset. Those 4 windows are well known to be good feeding times for fish. Regularly check your line for abrasions. Run the line between your index finger and your thumb and feel for any nicks, frays, rough spots, etc. Those are the weakest points in your line. And if your line is going to break, that's where it's going to break. A surefire way to catch more fish is to have your hooks sharp. Hooks out of the box are never sharp enough. If you can keep your hooks sharp, I guarantee you'll catch more fish because you'll get more good hook sets and you'll keep more fish hooked until you get them in the net. And lastly, do everything that you can to ensure a quick and healthy release. Do so by having your tools ready and limiting the time that the fish is out of the water. Fish are too much fun to catch only once. So catch a nice one and let it grow.
That's a pretty good size pike. Holy. That's a small one. Oh, it came off right at the end.
Perfect.
Yeah, just the way to do it.